All right, Daniel the Adjuster here. Coming to you guys to talk to you a little bit about just life as an adjuster in the good days and the bad days. So I talk a lot on my channel about the great days, and it's wonderful. There are lots of good things in the world of adjusting, but there are also bad days. And the bad days are not terrible, but stick around and we'll talk about it, and I'll let you know what I mean by bad days. Maybe you'll say they're worse than I'm making it out to be, or maybe you'll say they're not so bad.
He's exaggerating.
So one of the things that is important for you guys to understand is that in this world of adjusting, we have slow times and we have busy times.
Really?
Really?
And both of those can be good and bad, but they can also be, I guess I'm beating around the bush a little bit here. Hold on, camera's slipping down here. Hold on a second.
Get your act together!
So I guess it can be good and bad, meaning if you're busy, you could be running from 7 in the morning till 10 at night, running claims and just non-stop busyness. Seems like you never get done. Seems like the work is endless. It never stops. It could be 6 days a week, sometimes even 7 days a week if you're working in an area that's extremely busy.
I'm not sure I'm ready for this.
So to me, that can be quite negative. I've been there, had to run that for months, the same level of intensity, and found myself very stressed. It affected home life, it affected free time, it affected stress level, probably my health. I think potentially even gained weight because I was sitting more in the chair writing estimates for sometimes 7-8 hours at a time because I'm trying to get done so that I can end my evening and at least have a moment or two of free time.
Unbelievable.
So that's kind of stressful. And then on the flip side, there's stress times or bad times, I think, is when there's not enough work. And right now I'm in that time. I'm in that time where it does not make any sense to why I don't have work. Have reached out to numerous firms asking for extra work or asking if they lost their contract with a particular carrier that I was working with, wondering why we're not getting any claims anymore from them. I did have an insurance company that went out of business that I was handling their claims. So UPC Insurance out of Florida went out of business and went bankrupt, I guess. I didn't hear a whole lot of details, but all of a sudden I wasn't receiving any claims from them, and it's because they went insolvent.
Yeah, sometimes they explode.
So work can be really frustrating sometimes with the fact that you're like, man, I was so busy last year and I was doing really well and running 6 days a week and just had a killer amount of income coming in, and all of a sudden for the last year or so it has been very, very slow.
It's dried up.
And a lot of the adjusters in the area are saying the same thing. A good buddy of mine's local, and he says, man, I'm going through my savings, I'm going through everything I got, and yeah, he says, it's really hard. It's really hurting.
Broke.
And he'll even call me up and go, are you working? And I'm like, no. It's like, this is really, really, really sucks. And so that could be really stressful. And I know there's a lot of guys out there like that, because I get a lot of comments and a lot of guys talk to me and they'll say, Daniel, how do you find work? And unfortunately, it's the same thing I'm doing, is just refreshing my roster list and calling up the old firms or the old contacts and saying, hey, I'm available for claims if you got them. Or for the new guy, it might be getting on more rosters and filling out more paperwork and actually getting out there and getting on a new list.
Brilliant idea.
Yes.
So there's definitely, I'm doing everything. I've heard from numerous managers that have said, hey, I'm trying to find you something. There's just nothing going on right now. It's just really quiet. And so they're even apologizing, because you got to remember, they're making money when we make money. And so if we're not making money, they're not making money. So they're gonna be hurting too. And if you multiply that by multiple adjusters, then that's a serious hit on the firms that then have to actually start potentially laying off managers or laying off file reviewers or whatever to accommodate for their bills, operating expenses they have.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, this is a fact of being self-employed. So self-employed doesn't mean you get a paycheck every week just because you're working. When you're self-employed, if you don't work, then there's no money coming in. And so you've got to find other work. And so I branched out a little bit, talked to a few other carriers, trying to get my own independent work. I've also talked to new firms that do different types of insurance. So I'm also reaching out to them for that. Different kinds of insurance, looking into options like that, doing simple progress reports on construction sites that are in part of the reconstruction plan. Doing those are simple, but they don't pay much, but they're doing something. So there's lots of little things to do. It's just that when there's not a lot of work going on, or else everyone else is looking for the same type of work too, then it's still slim. There's just not a whole lot of work out there to find.
What are you going to do?
The stress level can be a little high when you don't have work, especially when you have friends, family, whatever. They're all saying, why don't you go deliver pizzas? And I'm like, I don't want to start a new business. I don't want to go out and do that for $10 or $20 an hour. Not my kind of way that I want to go out and find work. I want to find insurance work because it relates to my resume. I don't want to have to put on pizza driver as part of my resume. So that's just me. I mean, if you guys got to do that, nothing against it, okay? You got to do what you got to do to feed your family and feed yourself. I can remember the days when it was so busy that I said, can I just get a break?
Can I just 1 minute? Take a cocoa break.
I remember those days. And boy, I wish I had some of those right now. But I can remember wishing for a break because it went months and months and months where I did not have 5 minutes to breathe. And I was very, very busy. And I was really tired. Really tired. Can't always wish for the other side of the coin. Like when I'm busy, I can't wish that I didn't have work, or wish I had more time off or more time to vacation. And when I'm slow, I can't sit there and, whine and complain about the fact that I don't have work. It's like, this is the ebb and flow of insurance adjusting. It's really all dependent upon the weather. It's all dependent upon the carriers that you're working for, the firms you're working for, how busy they are. It could be a restructuring of the insurance company where they all of a sudden decide that they're going to do a lot more in-house stuff and hire a lot more staff adjusters to do a lot of the inspections. That changes. Everybody does a little revamping every once in a while and changes the way they do things. And this does affect the independent adjuster's work.
Why do they do that?
But don't lose hope. That's the thing. It's not like this is always going to be the way. I mean, 11 years I've been doing this business, and this is the first really bad year that I've had. So that's really great odds. Don't lose hope on that. And guys, I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to say that even throughout the year, you've got to budget your money carefully for slower times, because there are slower times even during the year for us. When the storm season's gone, slows down around the holidays, from literally Thanksgiving through to January, mid-January, it's actually really slow too.
Sure, it's Christmas time.
And that's, wonderful if you really wanted a break after a really busy summer. But if you had a kind of a mediocre, small or crummy summer, then you're not looking forward to that time, because that's going to be a really hurting time financially during those months. And so that's kind of where I was at, is that we had a really dry summer last summer, and then we went through a really dry winter, and now we had a really crummy spring, and here we are now in July, and still I'm down 3 times what I used to be doing around July time.
That is not acceptable.
Everything is down, and so everything is really crummy now for about the last year, and I'm excited to get busy again. Now everybody's saying, well, why don't you get deployed? And I'm like, well, you ever thought about, after being completely dry and short on money for a whole year, that there's not a whole lot of finances there available to all of a sudden jump out to a catastrophe and spend $4,000 to $6,000 on hotel and living expenses in another state, just because you decide you want to go. So yeah, I can put it on a credit card, but then again, you got to have money to pay it, and there is no guarantee when you get on that deployment that you're going to do a killer amount of work. Here's the thing: there's always a risk in a deployment scenario that you could go there and only get 20 or 30 claims. And yes, that's great. 20 or 30 claims is wonderful, but it's not like, you got to remember, you got hotel expenses, travel expenses to get to where you're going, and all that all got to come out first, as well as your living expenses at home, before you make any profits.
This is smart.
So you could go there, drive halfway across the country to something, and literally make an extra $2,000 or $3,000 in the time that you're there if it was a crummy event. By the time all your expenses are paid at home and abroad, you're not making a ton of money. So it's not always the best scenario in the world for these guys to deploy to CAT events. I've actually heard of several guys and talked to several guys who got deployed on an event, drove all the way across the country, got there, and when they got there, there was no claims to be given. So they actually didn't even get claims when they got there, and wasted all that time and energy. And yes, the firms tried to get them a little consolation prize, like $500 or something for their travels, but to spend all that time and make nothing by the time you spend all your money in travel, that was a disappointing event for them. And that happens. So catastrophe work is not always guaranteed to be absolutely fantastic and wonderful every single time. Yeah, I think in general, I love being an adjuster. I really enjoy this job. I would not change it if somebody asked me to, or gave me an opportunity to change back to doing contracting. As a home builder, remodeler before doing this for 18 years, I wouldn't go back to that. It has a whole different set of problems, and that's not where I want to be.
That's good to know.
This job gives me a lot more freedom, and definitely a lot more, I think, more income, because the expenses are low. Like when I was a contractor, I was buying tools and nails and all the expenses that were involved in keeping myself skilled enough to do this job. The expenses were much higher, and so things like that were costs that I had to incorporate into my business, whereas the expenses that I have for me now are minimal, and they just, in comparison, are very small. Our expenses are like Xactimate subscriptions. You get them with a firm, it's going to be maybe $120 a month. That's not bad. I mean, for all your expenses in the software to be about that, and I got Microsoft, I've got a subscription for that, but it's kind of minimal as far as the expenses in software that we have to use, which is kind of impressive. When you learn how to use Xactimate and you get the certifications, you're not re-spending that money to get your certifications. Once you have that certification, you're good. People don't ask you to take the test again. Same thing with your licenses. Every year, you renew them, depending on how many you have, but it's not a massive expense. And once you have them, you just keep renewing them, and you're good to go, ready for any event. The biggest expense would be just my gas and maintenance on the vehicle. Getting oil changes every 2 to 3 months probably is about turnaround time on a oil change for me. So that's an expense that's there. And whereas when I was home building, I might get one every 6 months or a year, once a year maybe, because I wasn't driving a ton. But now, I'm putting on incredible amount of mileage. So you've got your car that's going to be breaking down a lot quicker. You're going to be putting pretty massive amounts of miles, 40,000 miles a year, 50,000 miles a year on your car. Cars are not going to, give you forever mileage. So that's going to be, you're going to have to factor in that you're going to have to replace that vehicle about every 3 to 4 years. just because you're going to put on, 300,000 or 400,000 miles in 3 to 4 years. So those are expenses that we have that are different. Tires, go through tires like left and right. Brakes, you're going to have to keep getting redone. So maintenance on the car is probably the biggest expense. But so when you put those factors together, these are all prices, and all these things come out of the bottom line of what you make. So it's most important for us to make money and make good money so that we have the money for the extras that come, for your expenses throughout the year. Because no one's paying that. We're paying that. Yeah, something to think about. But anyways, I'm going to keep doing a couple more videos like this so you guys kind of feel what it's like on the everyday kind of things about being an adjuster. The good, the bad, the ugly, and then just my thoughts as we go along. Got a little more time, so maybe I can do a little more content. So anyways, well, thanks for joining, guys, and enjoyed chatting with you. Like, share, and follow my videos. Don't forget to check out the links in my bio as well. Talk to you soon.